For years, you heard about how XRP has so many major institutional players that want to use it or are using it. The main thing that we look at here is that claim is essentially false. No, today, institutional players aren't using XRP in the way that we would hope, in the sense of they're not using it at scale. And we don't really know, and we can't really confirm if they are using it at this current moment. In my opinion, I actually don't think that any institutional player is using XRP at this current moment. Now, it's not because they don't want to, it's because they don't have the tools in place in order to do so. But also, the main thing that we're all overlooking when it comes back to the whole idea of mass adoption of crypto or the prices of crypto is regulations. No, we do not have proper regulations right now in this space for institutional players to enter at scale in a massive way. But I do believe that that will change. And in fact, I think that it is already changing. And in this video, I actually want to go over a lot of this to really kind of give you guys an insight on what to expect as an XRP holder going forward. So let's start off with, of course, yes, the amount of players that XRP has behind it. So Yahoo Finance posted this back in November, and it's XRP's banking partnerships hit 300. Why Wall Street is watching. Now, again, when we think about this, it's Ripple, right? It's Ripple that has these partnerships. XRP does not have these partnerships. However, Ripple does have XRP at the core of everything that they are doing. So the fact that, yes, they do have, 300, maybe even 500 customers, which we'll talk about here in a moment, technically they're exposed to XRP in some way, shape, or form. Now, not every single one of them will be exposed to XRP depending on what they're using in terms of a Ripple product. But I will say this, we know that back in 2023, there was a video clip, and this highlighted all of the Ripple partners. There's 500 plus Ripple partners. Okay, and it's growing and it continues to grow. Like for an example, one of the most recent ones that we know, Geo. This is a major bank over in the UAE, and Ripple partnered up with them back in January to explore blockchain use cases. Now, of course, when we think about this, yes, XRP will most likely be that blockchain. But the key here that we're looking at is this was 500 partners back in 2023. Today, we don't know how many partners there are, but we know that there's definitely a lot more. And all it really takes is one major move that Ripple makes to change how many potential partners that they have, number one. Number two, how many potential institutional players can use XRP when they are ready to. Like for an example, we go back to Hidden Road, right? Hidden Road had 300 plus institutional players tied back to it. Then we think about G Treasury, which had 13,000 banks tied to it. That's why I even said people seem to overlook the partnerships that Medico had prior to Ripple acquiring them, which were all of these banks. Then we look at partnerships that Ripple has with major banks for multiple solutions. Again, there's a ton of them. There are probably hundreds or even thousands of partnerships we don't even know about due to NDAs. It's clear at this point that Ripple is becoming a monster in the banking and financial space. All paths will lead to XRP, in my opinion, as well, even with ROUSD, considering there will be other stablecoins too, with XRP being a perfect bridge currency. Now, yeah, listen, we already know so many big banks are tied back to these acquisitions. Again, this is just Medico. Like I said, G Treasury, 13,000 plus. Like there's so many big names. Even when we go over here to Ripple on their ripple.com/customers tab, we help global companies accelerate their finance business. Again, here are just some of the major players moving across the screen. DZ Bank, Ona Freak, like these are major players. And you have Travelex Bank as well. Again, just a ton of major companies using Ripple. Now, when we think about the next phase here, all right, we think about XRP being at the core. Because again, there's so many solutions that they have. They have payments, they have custody, they have stablecoins, they have prime brokerage, they have treasury management. And when you look at all of these, right, you don't really see XRP being mentioned at all. And a lot of people will pretty much kind of overlook that. They'll say, all right, well, you know what? This is just Ripple, doing whatever they want to do. They're not using XRP. They're using their own platform. But when we think about blockchain-based use cases, like if Ripple is pushing blockchain-based use cases, what blockchain is Ripple using? They're using XRP. It's the same exact reason why when we look over here at their custody solution, right? This is institutional custody, all that kind of stuff. You have tokenization, stablecoins being mentioned. Again, how are they doing this? Well, you go to their tokenization tab, and that's where you see XRP and the XRPL. It's the same exact reason why when we think about the stablecoin, again, yes, although most of ROUSD is on Ethereum, XRP is still being tapped in here. Then you think about Ripple Prime, aka Hidden Road. We know that Brad Garlinghouse said that XRP would be at the core of this partnership. I think if we go to the primetime announcement, which is of course just Hidden Road becoming, Ripple Prime, they say here that XRP will be the main key piece here. It will actually complement the services offered by Ripple Prime. That's what they say here. Now, beyond that, you also have the corporate treasury management systems and solutions. This is all G Treasury. Now, again, you don't see XRP mentioned at all here. However, when you look under this and look at the layers here, you still have the custody tab. You have a few of the key pieces here, like payments and stuff like that, which again leads back to XRP. They don't say XRP at all on this page, but very similar to all of the other use cases, we know that there's a hidden XRP path behind all of this because, again, Ripple has stated many times over, pretty much everything that they do has XRP at the core. And this has 13,000 connected banks, $12.5 trillion in payments volume. I mean, G Treasury is a massive piece of the puzzle. And then we think about what Dilip Rayo told us. And this is years back. This got posted by Smoke Dog, but this is a very old clip. Now, Dilip Rayo said the next phase of Ripple strategy is banks using XRP for payment settlement. First, onboard every institution to the network, then route payment volume through XRP. Listen closely. Now, you might say, well, Nick, this is an old video, so this never actually happened, right? Well, I want to put a spotlight on this because I do think that we're getting very close to this phase kicking in. Check this out.
No, so as I said, the X-Current product, the way it's implemented today, uses fiat currencies. So the convergence that we see coming in the next phase is for banks to have an option to say, do I want to use XRP? So instead of the German bank holding Turkish lira, they could say, Akbank, are you able to accept XRP and give me Turkish lira? Here's 100 lira worth of XRP. Here's 1 million lira worth of XRP. Mm-hmm. And instantly that can be settled without having to hold balances. So that's the holy grail. That's the ultimate end goal that we're aiming for. But if you don't have connectivity, you can't even start. So first you get the banks connected. They do what they're doing today better. They like it. They build new services on it. Then they go, I want to do this in 100 countries, but I can't hold currencies in 100 countries. Well, guess what? You got XRP. So it's a phase strategy, but that's the way, banking works.
Oh, really? So yeah, I mean, listen, when we think about what's really going on here, I do believe that the next phase here will be institutional players using XRP. The main thing on this though, and pretty much everyone is always asking this, why aren't they using XRP right now? Like if XRP really is all this, efficient and it's all this incredible, and you could do this with XRP, you could do that with XRP. Why aren't they using it today? And we've gone over this. David Schwartz confirmed this even with the upcoming major push around permission domains. He said, even Ripple can't use the XRP Ledger DEX for payments because we can't be sure a terrorist won't provide the liquidity for payments. Features like permission domains will address this. So not even Ripple can use the XRP Ledger, which is why when we think about all of these major banks and institutional players that Ripple has locked in, they can't do it either until this is in place. Now, permission domains just went live. They went live on February 4th. Okay. And on top of this, the token escrow just went live on February 12th, which also is another big key piece of the puzzle. And then on top of this, the permission DEX. Now, it's not even a full 24 hours away from this being enabled. So this will also be enabled next, which will be massive combined with all of these. And then last but not least, the lending protocol. The lending protocol has been rising in consensus. We're at about almost 15% for this. Okay. When this hits 80% as well, and this gets added to the XRP ledger, this combined with all of this is going to be massive, because all of these crucial tools and efficiencies added to the XRP ledger, they enable institutional adoption at scale. And I'm very excited about that, especially at a time where we are constantly seeing more institutional players tied back to Ripple. And the best part about this is we also have over here, this is from Bank XRP, Revolutionizing Finance with the XRP Ledger, Odelia Tortman, Director of Corporate. The XRP Ledger's role as a layer 1 decentralized protocol and its native bridge currency XRP. Growing interest from institutional giants like Visa, MasterCard, BlackRock, and Franklin Templeton, permission domains and DEX, key features enabling regulated entities to thrive in the DeFi ecosystem, the future of DeFi as the middleware of the global financial system, the upcoming XRP Ledger lending protocol, a game changer for institutional liquidity on chain as well. And like I said, that confirms all of these things are crucial for the big picture to unfold. But check this video clip out.
I think that first of all, the important thing to remember is that the XRP ledger is an L1 decentralized protocol where the XRP is the bridge currency to complete a lot of the transaction and a lot of the settlements that are taking place on it. So it's kind of like, before you look at it, one way to look at it obviously is an asset to hold, but from the other side, it is an extremely essential functional pillar within the wider XRPL ecosystem and with the ever-increasing list of use cases, products, and offerings that are being developed for the financial service world.
Okay, can you sort of give us some sort of example? Right, there's been a lot of big names, Visa, MasterCard, BlackRock, we've had Franklin Templeton, all in the building over the past 2 days. Are they showing an interest in XRP Ledger?
Absolutely. The XRP Ledger, again, was designed from inception to support different use cases around cross-asset transparent payment.
Wow.
So that was, I think, one of the first ledger that was launched, like I said, in 2012, from inception to support this industry. So it has a lot of features that are pre-embedded on the native protocol level that support enterprise-grade use cases, whether this is the pre-built AMM, the pre-built DEX, the ongoing long list of additional product roadmap that we have to support KYC aspect, to support trust lines.
Yeah, well, they like that, isn't it? So from the foundational building of this, you're kind of possibly working within regulatory frameworks or within sort of the prospect of future working with regulatory frameworks.
Absolutely. This is the blockchain built for the financial service. Period.
Okay. So let's actually drift a little bit more detail. Now, permission domains and permission dexes seem to have been a hot topic this year. Could you explain the significance of these developments and how they're contributing to the growth of mainstream adoption of XRP Ledger?
Absolutely. I think that these two amendments are basically targeting exactly this area where permission domains basically enable market makers or markets in general to basically define and control who can participate within this ecosystem, right? So you define predefined roles, predefined terms to who can be part of these environments, and permission DEX basically take exactly those elements of the pre-native DEX that we have on the XRP Ledger, but design it in a facilitated way, again, that enables only KYC-specific defined entities to be part of it.
Okay, well, that's the big thing, is it only KYC regulated entities. And look, if institutional capital want to get involved in DeFi, which I kind of think they do now, they're now seeing it's frictionless, the efficiencies, the cost cutting, the cost saving, but they want to know who's all involved, where does the code come from, who's the teams behind all this,
exactly.
But that's happening then, basically.
Exactly. All in all, who are the team? Like I mentioned, what is the collateral that is being based? How do you define the risk framework, the risk governance, the mechanism around that? And also, how do you then put this to work into different types of use cases?
Okay. Now, look, 2026. Oh boy, is it volatile at the moment. But what can we look out for in the year ahead when it comes from XRP Ledger?
So I think in general, DeFi, I believe, would become in the next 5 years the middleware of the global financial ecosystem.
Okay.
Whereby on the sense of a layer that connects between tokenized money, assets, and data across different jurisdictions and across different institutions. And the XRP Ledger as a layer that was designed to support exactly this ever always on settlement and liquidity layer is extremely designed for that. I've mentioned the product roadmap that we have going on. One of the things that I'm mostly excited about, which is coming very shortly, is basically the XRPL native lending protocol.
Okay.
That was designed to support institutions on their basically ability to tap into the liquidity on chain.
All right.
It is featuring a single asset vault architecture that enables basically to tap into the different assets on the XRP ledger, whether it's the XRP or the RWSD or others, and to be able to create this, harness the innovation that comes from DeFi, but in a basically standardized, regulated way for enterprises and financial institutions.
Okay, Adelia, thanks for, stepping in here, giving us the update.
So yeah, I mean, listen, when we think about, how big this is essentially, in my opinion, this is how I look at it, okay? I mean, obviously XRP has had such an incredible, well over decade plus, okay? The infrastructure has been great. Everything around XRP in terms of the efficiencies to move money and things like that, it's been great. But it's now getting a massive upgrade. With all of these amendments going live, with all of these key tools going live now, the next phase will finally be, going live. That next phase will be all of the institutional players, all the bank partnerships that Ripple has, Ripple themselves as well. They can now finally tap into the XRP ledger. They can finally use it. This is what we've been waiting for. We've waited. I mean, if we're really thinking about this logically, okay, we have waited 14 years because the XRP ledger and XRP went live back in 2012. We have waited 14 years for this. And it's finally a reality now. This is big. And the DEX is about to go live. The lending protocol is probably, some time out, but I would argue that this is the next big one to watch. We have watched the overall consensus rising. I've been watching it pretty much all throughout the month because back in the beginning of the month, there was only one vote. This has quickly, jumped to about 5. We've been seeing the percentage going up in terms of the consensus. So I think that this is the next big one to watch. But beyond that, the tools are going live. Everything's going live. We're so close to clarity. It feels as if XRP is prepared for this moment in a big way. So I'm very excited about that. And I do think that this is the year where we start to see institutional adoption and utilization of XRP in a real way, I'll say. Not even in a big way, in an actual real way, because we've been hearing about this for years and years. Now, there's nothing stopping this. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, Nick, thanks for watching. Peace out, guys.